And please don't make me get mad on a video that I don't like getting mad on videos, but so since I'm recording, we should really be on our best behavior.
Yes, sir.
So if we like, can we round on the quiz or like?
You just leave it like, well, I'll show you when I get to the end. So two-step equation. Again, you've got to know how to do a two-step equation. I mean, I feel like when I do that, I'm giving you points. I always start on the side where the variable is. So here's where the variable is. I start, though, with the term without the variable, because ultimately I'm just trying to get the variable by itself. So I need to get rid of this number first. Well, to get rid of it, I need to do the opposite. These signs will always be the opposite on this first step of a two-step equation. So I have a subtraction and or an addition, or a negative and a positive, however you want to look at it. One more. There we go. So if I do it on that side, I got to do it on that side. So that gives me 62, 21y. Now, if I need to get rid of the 21, because again, solving for a variable just means basically get the variable all by itself. That's what solving means. Well, but you don't even need to worry about it. So if this is 21 times y, the opposite is to divide by 21. Y times 21, opposite is divide by 21. Well, if I divide on that side by 21, I divide by that. That's your answer right there. Just leave it like that.
21? Not funny.
62 over 21. You don't need to do anything with that. You don't need to convert it to a decimal or an improper fraction. No, I never said convert it to a decimal. If it's, I mean, if the quiz said, like, I don't think any of the state, district, any of that stuff, I don't think they ever say convert to a decimal.
I thought it had to be like a whole.
I mean, I haven't seen them because I'm not allowed to look at them, but no, there's no reason. I mean, that's the answer. 62 over. Now, if you can simplify it, you should simplify it, but there's, this is only divisible by 3 and 7, and that's not divisible by 3 or 7, so there's nothing I can do. Any questions? Again, I know some of you struggle with multi-step equations, but you could put a little practice in from this point down, a two-step equation. There are 2 of those on there. Should be easy points. I tried to put several sections where I feel like, okay, these are the easier sections to make sure everybody can get enough points to do at least okay. All right, boy, that took a long time. Tell you what, I'm not going to worry about doing another one of those. Maybe if we have time, we will come back and do another one. So let's go to the word problems part, which is where? Up there it is. I did not give this sheet out, but I don't think I gave this sheet out here. Did I give out that gold sheet? Like it's kind of a brighter yellow. Did I?
I didn't get one.
This one? Will you grab mine?
Yeah. So that sheet, show it again real quick, Dean, please. You don't have that. I think I do have some of those. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have quite a few of those. I printed extras of that one, knowing I might give it to some people.
I need one too.
Can I have one?
I don't have tons, so some of you that I hope I have. Some people are sleeping. We're gone. What do you mean? Yeah. I didn't know if you meant in case you don't already have. I wanted to check. You're sure you don't have one. Okay, that's what I want. Anybody else?
I think.
Oh, wow, there's a bunch of phones out, and I've been ignoring it, but
Like,
it's.
charger and stuff like that.
I'll wait for you. Other people.
I could just stand it.
Yeah, if you think you've got it, pull it out. So because I only have a few left, and it's supposed to still be from algebra. Got it. You have it. What are you doing? Stop that. Yeah, you.
Me?
Yes.
What?
That is not important right now.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. You.
It needs to come off.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when I did that to me? Let's check it out.
You have this, right?
Or like, I'm not even doing it on purpose. Like, I just.
Yeah.
I just like, I just check it out.
She normally winds up doing relatively okay. You already had one?
Yeah.
All right, so meaning for that.
Let's check it out.
Now you're just looking at videos. All right, so Maria, you have one. All right, so we're gonna use this, and we're gonna do. Did we do any of the word problems on here? Okay, we're gonna do the creating the word problems on this sheet. I'm gonna do a couple for you, then you're gonna do a couple. So again, I need zero noise. Again, I feel like I'm yelling over people. All right, so we said there are two questions. Well, we actually, in this class, we started with different questions. I kind of changed it over time. Still the number one question, I think, in my opinion, is this one. Is there an initial or starting number? If you can say, yeah, there's a number that I'm kind of starting with, and I'm only going to use that once, but then to that number, I'll maybe add something over and over and over and over again. So I'll give you some examples. If you have a bank account where you started with an initial amount of money, and then you added to that the same amount every week or every month, then that starting amount of money was an initial amount. You actually could have an initial amount and then you subtract from it every week. That was still an initial amount, you're just subtracting from it. You didn't use that first number over and over again. You used some other number over and over again. If you have like I'll say like a membership fee to some kind of club, but then from there you pay an amount, every month or something. Well, that membership fee, that initial fee, is a one-time fee. You don't pay that amount over and over and over again. You're going to pay something else over and over again. So that would be an initial fee, a starting fee. That is how you tell that you use this format. And I'm not going to tell you on this quiz which format you use to graph, which format you use to create the equation. You've got to figure that part out. So I would say this is the best one, that question. Now let's say you're still not sure. Some problems, it's pretty easy to tell that you're going to be multiplying a couple of times. If you remember, we did one with t-shirts and shorts, selling t-shirts and shorts. We were going to need to multiply the cost of a t-shirt times how many t-shirts. The cost of shorts times how many shorts. So we're going to multiply twice in that problem. I think that's another really good thing to look for, because if we're multiplying twice, we'll zoom in. There's two types of equations, right? One, we're multiplying once, m times the x, that's multiplication, but only once. Here we're multiplying twice, some number times x, some number times y. So if you can clearly say, yeah, I'm going to need to multiply twice in that word problem, then it's got to be the version where we're multiplying twice in the equation itself. So those are the two I think are the easiest. If you see some other ones that you think you can use better, like we talked about using per once versus using it twice, whatever you think is the best. One way or another, though, we got to create an equation, and the first part of that is figuring out which version. So in this problem, I'm going to do these first couple, then you'll do the second two. I'm going to think to myself, is there an initial number? I only have three numbers. That one, and then the number 1, which is written as a word. Well, I'm not starting with 17. That's what what she spent, what Aaliyah spent. So, Aaliyah. Oh, it's spelled different. Are you sure? Aaliyah. So, I'm not starting with that 17. That's where I end. Which, by the way, if I'm ending with a number, that's going to typically be all by itself on one side. So, Airheads, they are $1 each. Am I starting with 1 and that's all? No, I'm going to use 1 over and over again every time I buy an Airhead, so that's not an initial number. 2, that's how much a honey bun is. Again, I'm not starting with 2 and ending with 2. I'm going to maybe every time I buy an Airhead, I'm going to use 2. So there is no initial number. Let's say I'm still not sure if there's an initial number. Let me think about the other rule that I like. Am I multiplying twice? Well, every time I buy an airhead, I'm going to multiply that times 1. Every time I buy a honey bun, I'm going to multiply that times 2. So yeah, I'm multiplying twice in that. So now I'm really sure this is the format. If you ever can figure out that it's in this format, that shouldn't be real hard to do the equation from. Because C is just going to be the final number. There's always just going to be one final number. That's this one. I'm ending at $17. That's what I'm spending. So I know 17 goes over there. Now I just got to figure out, well, what am I multiplying? Something times this, something times that. Well, it tells you what X is right here. It says X is the number of airheads. Well, if I know X is the number of airheads, I'm not going to multiply how much a honey bun costs times the number of airheads. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to multiply $1 times how many airheads, because that's what X stands for, the number of airheads. I'm going to multiply 2 times how many honey buns, the number of honey buns, because 2 is how much one honey bun. So the kind of, once you figure that, I think these are pretty simple, normally, not always. So that's your first equation. Now, second problem, Nikki. Again, is there an initial fee? Is there a number I start with and then I'm going to add over and over again? Well, there's only 2 numbers in this one. So again, let me look at the 2 numbers. I got 10 and I got 25 cents. Well, I know 25 cents, isn't it? Because every time I do a download, I'm going to have to add 25. And I said the initial fee is only used once. So if I'm using that over and over again, that can't be an initial fee. So now let's look at the 10. Well, that's a monthly fee. I could even sort of say $10 per month. Remember we said per means multiply, so maybe I'm multiplying twice then. But here's the trick in this one. What are they asking me for in this problem?
Can you please move? To write the equation for her monthly cost.
So that's a big key. They only want an equation for 1 month, for a monthly cost. Well, how many times am I going to pay a monthly fee in 1 month?
Once.
Yeah, I'm not adding that 10 over and over again. So in this case, that is a one-time fee. That is an initial fee. Then to that $10, I'm going to add 25 cents over and over and over again, depending on how many downloads. So for this problem, this is the y equals mx plus b version. I'm only multiplying once. That's going to be the number of downloads times the 25. We even said the word per means multiply. So it's going to be 0.25. And there's only multiplication 1 spot in this equation. So I'm going to have to replace this with the 0.25. Per means multiply. And then what would X stand for in this case?
Cents.
Nope. Yep. What's X stand for? Because some of the questions I give you, I've already given you this whole thing. And then I say, what does, and I pick something, I say, what does this stand for in the equation? Yeah.
I just said.
Number of downloads.
You just said that.
Sometimes I hear it and I ignore it because I don't want to just stop there. I want other people to think about it. But I'll be honest, I didn't hear it.
At least you want it.
Again, typically when we do the multiplication part of a problem, so in this case, this is the multiplication part. In this case, this is the multiplication part. It's always going to be how much is one of them or how much is in one of them, and then times how many. Because here, how much is 1 airhead times how many airheads? How much is 1 honey bun times how many honey buns? How much is 1 download times how many downloads? I mean, I don't know that there's an exception to that. I'm not going to give you one, and I don't think the EOC is going to have one either, to tell you the truth. So just remember that. How much is 1 or how much in 1? Like the in part would be like if it's a bus. How many people in 1 bus? Or how many pieces of candy in 1 package? Something like that. And then how many packages? That's pretty standard. So I want you guys to try the bottom 2. You got to figure out which type of equation first, and then create the equation. Kids out. What percentage of my class is Steve?
A lot.
Do the math.
What's that in the back?
I said 7 out of 28 in mathematics.
That means there's like.
That's 33%.
24.
Close. I don't know why you picked 24.
25.
25.
Wow.
Wait, I was actually close. That was literally
Well,
just a random
I
number.
picked 7 and 25 and made them that good. Because I knew that.
Nine.
was what
The thing in your hand.
This is a cool.
So remember, first you got to figure out which type of equation, which format. Then once you figure that out, hopefully it's not too bad from there. That is, I believe, pretty good. What's the answer to that question? The last question. What's the answer to that?
Oh,
No, read the last question. No, the very last.
Oh, what does X mean? Oh,
I thought you didn't speak English.
Just.
He says that all the time. Yeah, like when he does one of them. It is good.
It's a gift. I mean, it's a gift.
What did you say? I thought you did say Mr. Gill.
Thank
Until you
you.
covered your mouth up. Mr. Gill?
It's like, it's not done, but like
Once you know that, like plugging the numbers in is normally the easier part.
I said he wasn't, yeah, she said he wasn't.
Oh.
No, because miles per hour are these numbers. That's miles per hour. That's miles per hour. So X.
Big hand in hand.
You're.
he lost. Like the lines that he lost.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it means. Well, no, I'm sorry. No, it's not the miles. It is about the walking, but it's not about how many miles you walk. It's about something else. It is about the walking, though. That's what the 3.5 is. That's the walking speed.
Let me see mine. Stop reaching your back.
So again,
Oh, the walking speed?
I dropped this.
in this case, you don't. I didn't tell you what the variable. Yeah. No, not the speed. Though. Still not the speed. 3.5 is the speed. So you can do this, but then you have to answer that question now. What does X stand for? Oh, you want to check that. Yeah. So now answer the question part, and that'll tell me whether you get it right. You can't solve it because I didn't give enough information to solve it. But, so again, so that is your equation, which it could be. That could be a correct equation. Although there'd be a number at the end. You know what that means. What's his final number? What do you wind up with? How far do you wind up with?
I know.
Tells you.
Mr. Gill.
Yeah, so that's. So you can't solve anything because you have two variables are only one equation.
Yeah. I dropped him.
No, it's about walking because X is width 3.5. So if that's his walking rate, X is about walking, but what is it about the walking?
I wasn't thinking.
Not his speed, it's not how many miles, it's something else.
No, I don't want to play on my.
Fantastic.
So the equation right.
Well, the equation was right no matter what, because I didn't tell you what variable to which.
My thing is.
So, but once you make X next to 6, that means that's what X stands for. Or you could have written 3.5X and then plus 6Y. But then you would have had to have written how many hours you walked. So depending on where you put the number, that determines what X stands for. See what I'm saying? Good. I don't know, where's it? Is it done?
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
I was like,
Uh-oh.
I want to, like, you be kind of confused. He got shut up. Worry about.
All right. You guys are leaving. Brad, are you working on this, Brad?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So remember, I didn't even tell you how to watch the video. You're doing Alexis, I'll just give it to you closer.
But it was
So he's
like
got
to the
both
point
of
where
them.
it's like trying to control myself.
Boy, since nobody works when I do this is why I don't do any group stuff in this class. It would just be a miserable failure. If you want to go back and watch the video, you go to my YouTube. You just go to YouTube, type in Mr. Gill. It'll still be algebra. I'm not going to make a whole separate page for this class since I'm only recording twice. Look for a picture of my dog, and then I'll title this LAM. I'm not going to put liberal arts, but I'll just title it LAM and then today's date. And it'll say review for quiz or something like that. All right, so here's how we do this. I didn't really check many of them. Some of you are working, most of you weren't. So I'm just going to do this for the recording. Whatever you get, you get. In this particular problem, again, when I open an account with a starting amount, that's a pretty easy initial number. Didn't I say something about putting that phone up? Interesting. So I'm opening the account with $250. I'm not going to add that $250 over and over and over again. Let's put that money in. I'm now just going to add 50 every week. So I know it's got to be in this format because that's the one with the initial number, the B. Well, Y is going to be all by itself still. X is still going to be in the equation. I know the initial amount was the 250. That's where the Y-intercept is. That's where the starting number is. So if I'm adding 50 over and over and over again, 50 goes in. What's the X stand for in that problem?
How much you added?
No, that's 50. I already know that.
Your initial value.
Nope,
No,
that's 250.
What did he ask?
What is
What
it
is
stand
that
for?
It's how much you're adding. Or is it like what?
I'm adding 50. I know that number.
Each week?
And X is
Every
an
week?
unknown.
Every week?
Unknown. It's got to be something you don't know.
How many weeks you add?
If I knew it, I wouldn't need the X. A variable is an
Well,
unknown.
don't you
The
know it?
amount we.
So is it like,
No.
is it
It
like,
wouldn't need an X if I knew it.
is it how much you're like, and, oh, it's how many weeks?
We
How
said,
many
Mr.
people
Gill,
said
we
that
said
27?
that.
I didn't say it. I
Mr.
didn't.
Gill, bro.
I heard somebody say how many, or how, I heard somebody say how much each week and how much the initial was. That's all I heard.
We said each week.
Oh, well, no, each week isn't right.
Well,
It's
not
not
each week,
each
I
week.
said.
Yeah, I did hear each week. Each week is not correct. It's how many weeks. Each week is that number. How many weeks? Because remember, again, go back to this. How much in one? Well, 1 week was 50. How many weeks was what we didn't know. It's always those two things. Like, again, I can't think of a time when it's not those. I don't know if you'll ever see a time when it's not those. For this one, really quickly, there's no initial number. 5 is an ending number. And I'm going to be multiplying twice. I'm going to multiply 6 miles per hour times how many hours? And I'm going to multiply 3.5 miles per hour times how many hours? So my final equation. So that means it's this format, by the way. If I'm multiplying twice, if there's no initial value, it's that format. C is always pretty easy. It's the final number. Again, there's no initial number. It's the final number. So I could write X plus Y equals, what do you have, 5? So 5. Now I just got to figure out what goes with the X. Well, I didn't tell you what X stands for, so it doesn't matter. You can write whatever you want. I can write 6. I can write 3.5. Doesn't matter. I'm just writing 3.5. I don't know why. It was smaller, I guess. So that could be your equation. Anybody get that?
Mr. Gill. No, Mr. Gill. Listen,
Hold on. I'm addressing that right now.
I had that on my paper.
Hold on, I'm addressing.
You're addressing?
I'm addressing something right now.
Yeah, no,
What
no,
you're
no.
talking about. I said, how many people got that?
She did not have that. She had the
I mean, not many
5 on
people
the
tried,
Y.
but.
She had the 5 on the Y.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that
let
would
her
be.
talk.
5 can't be on the Y.
That's
I will
not
say that.
true. Don't listen to her. This girl delusional.
Illusion.
She's like that.
I had exactly that. She told me I was wrong. She told me I was wrong with this one too. But
It's because she had 3.5.
Raise your hand. Well, most of you didn't do it, so probably can't give me your word. Raise your hand. You got something different than that. Because that's not the only right answer.
I did
There's
6x
another right answer.
plus 3.5y equals 5.
that's the same thing. What he did.
So let me ask you this question then. Which one's right?
It doesn't matter. They're both right.
How can they both be right? I don't
Because
get
you
that.
didn't give us what X and Y stands
So what does that mean when I change the equation? What do I have to do? It will mean something. I have to change something else. What's the question I asked you at the end?
for. You gotta change what the variable stands for.
So what does X stand for in this? What's the X stand for?
How many hours he walked?
How many hours he walks. You have to make sure you say that he walks, because this is also how many hours.
So then would that be how many?
So in this one though, what does X stand for?
How many hours he ran?
So again, it doesn't matter how you create the original equation if I don't tell you which variable to use for what, but it does change what that variable stands for. If you assign a different number to it, then this is how many hours he walks versus down here, it's how many hours he runs for the X. So that's the kind of question. I may not even have you solve out. I don't remember what I did, but I think there's 2 or 3 questions where you don't solve, like you don't create any equation. I just give you something. I say, answer these questions. So that's more what you're going to get as opposed to just creating equations. So if you understand that, then you're good. And we just did a couple pretty similar concepts to what you'll see on the quiz. All right, let me see what's. Oh, so here's what I told somebody. I don't remember who, in all honesty. I told somebody I would show you what's on the quiz. It's at the end, I think. Was that you, Jemiah, since you weren't here? All right, so this is what's on your quiz. If you don't remember, if you didn't write it down, let me.
Take a picture of it?
I don't. Yeah, you can take a picture. That's fine. We did not. Oh, I do want to do domain and range real quick because we haven't done that in a while. And we did not do great on that on the last exit ticket. So I do want to show that. We did graphing and creating word problems. Oh, inequalities. You're going to have to study that one on your own. We really struggled. Remember when you create an inequality, you got to create the line. You got to say, is that line a solid or a dashed line? And then you've got to shade one side of the line because the shaded region is also your answers. So you're going to have to go back and do that. I don't have time to do that for sure. I can do some stuff about functions. All right, what is domain and range?
Yes.
It's like,
Did you say yes to me? I said, what is domain and range?
And I said yes.
Yes. That's scaring me a little bit. Maybe a lot. Except for the fact that I just gave this guy a whole bunch of stuff on domain
No,
and
you
range.
didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She's not a math teacher.
Oh, yeah. I went over how to do it. He's good to go. You're set.
I have
All right.
work out to do in that class.
If I give you this, is that a function, first of all?
No.
Yes, it is. No. Wait,
Yes,
wait,
it is because.
no, it's not.
Yeah, you're so
Well,
committed.
you thought
Right?
it is.
I'm just confused
Yes,
on the
yes,
one.
yes,
Yes, it is. They all equal to one. Right? No, When
I
know
know
one, I know
because the
it's
numbers in the y don't repeat.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
no.
Because the x doesn't have one that comes down like 2 times. Yeah, like
If you change it to a diagram, like a mapping diagram, there wouldn't be any 2 arrows coming from one of these, if you think about that mapping diagram. Here's the real definition. You want to give it a shot? Correct. There is no x value. First of all, none of the x values are even repeated in this one. So the only way you can have something that's not a function is if you have a repeated x, then you got to figure out whether or not it's functional. Nothing repeats, so this is definitely a function. But what about this?
That's not.
because.
Yes.
Wait, yeah.
No, because there's 2 different. Oh wait, no.
No, it is because
It is. Oh my
They
God.
have the same output.
It's the same output for like.
I can repeat an x. That's fine. It doesn't matter. I can repeat x all day long.
You just can't repeat a y if it has a different x.
I just repeated a whole bunch of x's. But, yeah, every time I repeated an x, I'm going to have to zoom out.
Because isn't it like if you repeat an x, you have to.
So that's a 0, right? Remember I said function machine. If I put a 0 into my function machine, that's my input. My output is 1. Well, I repeated that, but I also got the same output. That's fine. As long as when I put 0 in, I get 1 out, I can do that all day long, and it's still a function.
So if you put 0 in again, like how, like if that second one, if the y was like 4 or something, like it wouldn't be a function.
Man,
Wait, I thought it could be like that, like the vending machine thing. Like you can put in.
well, but again,
It could be two different.
it can be two different y's.
But the
So
same-
if I do this, let's change it then. Let's go over that scenario first. So I could do this. So now I didn't repeat this x. This x is not in there anywhere.
You went from.
I repeated the y. That can repeat.
I just now you
Because
know
that would be like hitting a different button on the vending machine and getting the same thing. Like you've got water in this tray and water in that tray. That's fine. You can have water in 2 different trays. That's not a problem.
Are my eyes moving different? Like
Okay,
it's
let's go, let's go.
Probably just feels something.
My mom's calling me. Can I take this real quick?
God's quick. So again, let's clarify, please, 0 noise, because I got some people still confused. I can repeat this value. Really, in all honesty, the y doesn't matter at all until you find x value. Just close the door, Miguel. It's- Oh, all right. So I can repeat, I mean, I could do this. I can repeat every single one. Does not matter until I repeat an x. So is that a function now?
Yeah, because they have the same input. There's not the
Guys,
same
I
X.
still, I put the same x in, and I got the same output. So that is still a function. Now, is it a function over here? Did I do it? Oh, I didn't. Oh, I did this one first. That's right. I'm gonna have to zoom out again. Is this a function if I do this? Is that a function? Yeah, look through a lot of numbers on that.
Because
One can't
I
equal
can
3
live my
and 4. Mr. Gill, above it.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, it's because of the 1
No,
before,
it's not.
technically,
It's
but
the
then
3.
because of the 3. Well, no, but it's not because of the 3
Yeah,
and the 4.
because
No, not because of the 3 and the 4. Because we can repeat this, remember? That doesn't matter. This is,
that's what I'm saying. There's two different X's.
so no, different x's is fine.
So that's
Which
fine.
part
What-
makes that
you're
not a
making any
function?
sense.
Well, yeah, there's 1 in there that makes that, what makes that not a function? What
Because
2 pieces?
the
I don't fucking
one,
know.
for the first one, okay, so the
Just
like,
why?
first-
You're good. Just watch this.
Is it because like the first one, the output is 2, but then on the other one, the output is 4, and you can't have a different output? Yeah.
That's what makes it not a function. That. It's the 1 and then the 2 and the 1 and then the
Is
4.
that one?
I can't put in the same x and get a different y. Remember?
Oh!
Just be careful, because I think you were thinking the right
I would
thing.
be
but
so
yeah.
frustrated. I'm putting
Is the
myself.
one
Mr. Gill.
that's red, is that
I
one?
know.
Is this a
You have to
function?
show her the
I don't know.
vending
Do I have
machine.
any different x, or do I put in any x values twice? The same x value twice.
Yeah.
So I do that. So here's your process. Here's your process real quick.
But they all have 1.
Well, I'm just going through the process. So first thing I look for is repeated x's. Well, still no repeated ones. Oh, I finally repeated here. So circle your repeated ones. Now, as long as you have the same y for those, you're fine. If the y was different, you're not fine. So that's your process. Circle the same x value. So here, I circled the same x value, but here I have different y's. That is not okay. So circle the x's that are the same. As long as you got the same y for those, you're fine. If you have a different y, you're not fine. No longer a function. We still got 4 minutes. What are we doing? Man, I got one more thing to go over. So, What's the domain and range? Actually, we'll just do it from these. That's fine. What's the domain and range for that in blue?
Don't you have to do it in order?
So what are the rules? Let's go over them.
You gotta put them from least to greatest.
So least to greatest. What else?
And then you gotta get, you don't have to big number and a small number, right?
You don't have to.
No, nothing to do with big or small. Where does the domain come from?
The X.
Domain is your x value. So for domain, what is our domain?
Oh, I was like.
1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So why do you just say 0, 1, 2, what?
If you have it, you don't have to write it twice.
You don't write it twice.
Yeah.
Never ever write a number twice when you're doing domain and range. So 3, is there a 4? Yeah, there's a 4. So that's the domain. We do not write anything twice. And the range is 1, 2. I don't think I have a 3, right? So 4.
6.
No, 5, 6. And that's it. So that's the range.
Mr. Gill, are your 5s repeating too?
On my 5. For the x's?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you don't write them twice. When you write the domain and the range, you do not repeat a value. Right? So I don't repeat that 5. I don't repeat what else. 1 repeated also, but I don't repeat the 1. What else? Something else repeated. The 5s. Oh, the 3s. I didn't write 3 twice. You never write a number twice in the domain or the range. And make sure you put it small. Boy, you guys, some of you didn't know how to put negative numbers in order. I remember that. Why do you mess that up?
So the domain is the X and the range is the Y.
You knew the x's were the domain and the y's were the range, but when it came to putting them in order, and that was all wrong. There's no partial credit on this kind of stuff. If you don't know a number is smaller or bigger than another number, I'm not giving you partial credit for that. So there was one more thing I think that I was going to go over about domain and range. What was it? Oh, evaluate. I do need to go over that. Some of you didn't know this. If you have this,
Same thing as Y.
it is, but then all I said was this. What's that equal?
You have to plug in the X, plug in the 2 for the X.
Yeah, this just means x is 2. That's all that means. So if x is 2, then I just put a 2 there. So f of 2 is just 7. It just means instead of x being an unknown, well, now x is 2. So when x is 2, what's the answer? 7. Some of you didn't know how to do that. So just plugged in whatever number I replace x with here, replace the x in the equation with that number and
So
solve
that's
it.
literally just the same thing as Y.
I mean, it's different
I mean, like,
notation
well, yeah,
technically,
but
but
like-
it's the output, yes.
Yeah.
It's the output. It is the output when x equals a certain number. Evaluate a function, function notation. Oh, calculate rate of change. Remember we did a table. Your formula for calculating rate of change. You should have that in your notes, so I don't. Just be careful. Be careful. Make sure you label clearly which one is Y2, which one is Y1. Some of you put the X's on top and the Y's on the bottom, right, Mikhail? Did you hear me?
Huh?
I said some of you put the X's on top, the Y's on the bottom, right, Mikhail?
Yeah.
That's what he did.
He sure did. Lucky for him, that was the only thing.
That's
he did wrong.
the passing grade though.
But still, guess you didn't make that mistake.
I'm like,
You still did not make that. You were not
It's
getting
on
it.
an angle,
relax. Oh my God.
Okay, but I've seen you do that
Why you
twice
get
today.
so defensive?
What happened with
I've seen you
the,
do
oh
it
wait,
2
no,
times
yeah.
and you haven't even made one.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so the
Are you sure you're gonna start? Are you sure you're gonna start? And you can- Bro, I feel absolutely. I almost cried about it.
Well, I heard Lisa's shirt last night.
I had a damn one of them.
Right, because I threw my phone down and knocked over. You
Wait,
have
Mr.
it.
Gill.
No.
Oh,
Mr.
that
Gill.
was about Gill.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were saying that was about you also. That's why you
In
were-
yellow. What is this?
I just can't.
No, you're not.
I'm drinking that purple Sprite.
I never said that.
Why is it purple?
I thought you
I
said
don't
you
know.
didn't have
Oh,
preference.
thank God.
No? That's what I said. You didn't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
No, that is not.
Yeah, it is. If you date, if you're attracted to whatever, then you're.
Yeah, you don't really have a, that's basically
You don't
what
have a preference.
pansexual is.
Yeah.
You don't-
That's
Gay means
gay.
you only like the opposites. then,
No,
right?
gay is an umbrella term.
Yeah. there's-
Oh, you're up?
Can I get my book back?
Mr. Gill.
You read it?
No, I didn't.
Actually,
You
forget.
took it back.
That's
Couldn't
not
finish.
it.
I'm not a fast reader.
Shit.
Takes me a while. That's why I deal with numbers. I'm going to add one more thing in case anybody listens this long. We did not go over is a point on the line and or on the line and x and y intercepts. So I'm going to add that in just super fast. If I give you an equation, I always use the same equation. That is a line. We could graph that and create a line. If a point were going to be on that line, so a point is an ordered pair, some x and y value, it would have to make the left side equal the right side. So any point, any x and y value that makes the left side of that equal the right side is a point that would be on that line if we graphed it. So, for example, if I just randomly plugged in a point, maybe I think 2, 2 is on that line. Well, then I need to plug that in, and if the left side equals the right side, it's on the line. Well, y would be 2, x would be 2, so I replace x with 2. Well, I can tell already that point, left side does not equal the right side there. That point is not on the line. So that point, not on the line. Let's try another one. Actually, I'm going to give you one that works. We could figure one out. That's another part of the quiz, I think. I could say, well, what if x was 0? Well, if x was 0, this whole part would kind of go away, and then y would have to be 1. So if x were 0 and y were 1, I know that would be on the line because I just kind of solved it out to make that happen. Let me show you that. We'll just use that same point. So again, I just said x is 0, y is 1, should be on the line. Well, let's see. So 0, 1. All right, well, y is 1, x is 0, so I put a 0 there, plus 1. Well, 2 times 0 is just 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So there you have it. 1 equals 1. So I told you that was going to be on the line. And then we also said x and y intercepts. I'm going to give you the super quick version because my guess is nobody's listened this long, unless you really weren't listening in the first place and it just was still running in the background. An x and a y intercept means any point that is on either the x-axis or the y-axis. That's what an intercept is, a point on the axis. If it is an x-intercept, it would be on the x-axis. So all of these points are x-intercepts. All of these points in blue are y-intercepts. They're on the y-axis. So any point on the, now, here's the thing though, I'm not going to just give you a graph with some points on it. I'm going to give you a point like this. Well, if I plotted that point, it'd be somewhere over here. That is not on the x-axis, not on the y-axis. So that is not an intercept. It's got to have a 0 in it to be an intercept. Because if you'll notice on this, all these red points on the x-axis, the y value is right here. Like the y value is 0. Because the y value goes from 0 up positive and from 0 down negative. So right there, y is 0. X is also 0 right there. So any point where we have a positive or negative x value, but then a 0, like those are x-intercepts, because 3, 0 might be this point right here. Like maybe that's 3, 0, or maybe that point's 3, 0. Negative 1, 0 might be that point. Depending, the numbers don't even matter. It's just a matter of is it on the x-axis or not. If it's on the x-axis, it is an x-intercept. If it's on the y-axis, so y, examples of y-intercepts would be something where we have a 0 for the x, but a y value, so 0, -2. Those are y-intercepts, because 0, 5 would be somewhere up here maybe on the y-axis. 0, -2 might be right there on the y-axis. That is a y-intercept. And then again, this 2, 5, that would just be neither. That's not either. It's neither an neither an x-intercept or a y-intercept. So there's the last 2 pieces if anybody still has it running.